Good evening. First tonight, a coroner has said the deaths of 5 people shot by a gunman in Plymouth came after 3 decades of abject failure to properly train police staff.
In a report following the Keyham inquest released today, Devon's senior coroner accuses successive governments of failing to act on numerous warnings and says the public may still be at risk unless there are urgent changes to the law.
Well, Sam Blackledge joins us now from Plymouth. Sam, what are the key points of today's report?
Well, Seb, it's an extremely detailed and comprehensive report that came out today. First of all, the coroner makes it clear that we should not forget the 5 people who lost their lives in Keyham that day and the way the city responded in the days and weeks afterwards. But he goes beyond that single incident and takes a wider look at the law around guns and licensing, examining things like government legislation and how things work in firearms licensing units, not just in Devon and Cornwall, but across all 43 police forces in England and Wales. The document that was published today is called a Prevention of Future Deaths report, and ultimately that's what all of this has been about, stopping such a terrible tragedy from ever happening again. Lessons to be learned, recommendations to be made, reports to be written. But the question for everyone affected by the tragedy in Plymouth is, will anything really change? 2 weeks after the end of the inquest into the deaths of 5 people in Keyham, today the senior coroner, Ian Arrow, published his findings and recommendations about what needs to happen next. Well, this is the coroner's Prevention of Future Deaths report. As you can see, it's quite a lengthy document. It's made up of 5 volumes running to almost 50 pages. In it, he addresses serious concerns about the law on gun licensing, and he's particularly keen to point out that reviews of this sort in the past have addressed similar issues, but nothing seems to have changed. The jury at the inquest found that Jake Davison should never have been given a shotgun. His application was approved by a staff member who had not been properly trained. In his report, the coroner says that despite countless warnings over the past 27 years, there's been an abject failure to ensure nationally accredited training of firearms officers. He adds, "I'm concerned that in other police force areas, weapons may remain in the hands of individuals who pose a danger to the public." Chris Borland, a retired Devon and Cornwall Assistant Chief Constable, told me the report is a powerful account of a failing system.
I think it's a very wide-ranging, comprehensive report, pulls no punches, as you would expect. Let's hope that this is the case that is known, that brought around the changes that we need, both in terms of legislation and how seriously this particular part of policing needs to be taken.
In a statement released through their lawyers, the families of Lee and Sophie Martin, Kate Shepherd and Stephen Washington called for root and branch reform of gun laws. They said, "We look forward to helping the government and the police in enacting change. Our loved ones were not kept safe, and that is a very difficult and sensitive emotion to live with." It's become clear that this is a story which goes far beyond what happened on that awful night in Plymouth. As far back as 1996, a report into the Dunblane massacre recommended as much training as is practicable for firearms licensing officers. After a triple murder in 2012, the Durham coroner wrote a report raising similar concerns. And then in 2019, after a mother and daughter were shot dead, the coroner for Surrey warned that a lack of national training could lead to further tragedy. Today, Plymouth's Labour MP Luke Pollard said the time has come for those in power to start taking this issue seriously.
Things have to change this time. The tragedy in Keyham is so awful. For any good to come from it, it requires a determined effort to change laws nationally, to make sure that we have a new licensing system, new training systems for police officers, better training for judges, tighter gun laws, and change must come soon. And that's what I'll be pushing for in Westminster.
Both the Home Office and Devon and Cornwall Police say they've already taken steps to improve firearms licensing and will respond in full to the coroner's report within 6 weeks.
So Sam, what happens next for Devon and Cornwall Police?
Well, the force is still subject to a criminal investigation looking into whether they may have potentially breached health and safety laws in the firearms licensing unit leading up to the events of Keyham. That's being led by the Independent Office for Police Conduct and will continue. That could take some time. Meanwhile, the families of the Keyham victims have been invited up to Westminster to meet with the policing minister to discuss some of their concerns. That will happen towards the end of this month.
Sam, thank you very much.